Mr. Williams, your wife's got an emergency C-section. So I honestly thought my wife and baby were going to die.
PTSD, also known as post-traumatic stress disorder, is a type of anxiety which is caused when someone has experienced an extremely distressing event. This often leads to postnatal depression. It is common for women to suffer from post-traumatic stress after giving birth. Men suffer too. 1 in 10 fathers are postnatally depressed after their partner gives birth to their child. In many cases, bad experiences can involve an emergency cesarean or excessive bleeding during the birth. Fathers may feel that they are helpless in the situation. This can lead to a downfall in their mental health. We met Mark Williams, a past sufferer of PTSD and postnatal depression. His mental health broke down after his wife gave birth to his son.
Yeah, so everything was planned. I had a good job, my wife had a good job, got married, nice house, and the pregnancy was fine, so I was really excited about becoming a father for the first time. I was 30 years of age, and obviously that changed then when my wife went into labour. 3 doctors come rushing in and they said, Mr. Williams, your wife's got an emergency C-section. From that point then, my wife was obviously getting ready, and it was the first time I've ever had a panic attack. So I honestly thought my wife and baby were going to die. Honestly didn't feel initially that initial love for my son because I was just relieved they were both alive. So around about the 3 to 4 month mark then I was my personality was totally changing and myself then. And anyone knows me, I'm so laid back, but I was angry, I was drinking, I remember punching a sofa and busting my hand. I was a totally different person, my behaviour changed. What I say to people is, if I didn't have any feelings towards those 2 people, the most precious people in my life, then perhaps I wouldn't have what I know now. So it's actually witnessing your loved ones going through that traumatic experience can actually cause what I know now was PTSD.
Dr. Andrew Myers, an academic psychologist at Bournemouth University, specialises in perinatal mental health and is a representative for Samaritans and Dorset Mind.
It's often felt that, well, how on earth can fathers get postnatal depression, particularly with this perception that it's all hormonal, when actually it probably is not. The biggest killer in men under the age of 45 is suicide. The biggest factor in suicide is mental health problems. We don't yet know how many of those are fathers. Chances are it's very high indeed.
We spoke to Duncan Slightholm, father of one who's currently expecting twins.
I wish I was excited. I'm actually really a little bit scared by the whole thing. I don't know how it's going to go in the hospital. I don't know whether it's going to be good or bad, or hopefully it'll be great and we'll have a lovely time, but I just kind of want to get through it now and bring the babies into the world.
Dr. Myers spoke about the events that can potentially trigger PTSD and postnatal depression.
Imagine a scenario. The father's in a birthing room, which they often are these days, and suddenly his wife is becoming increasingly unwell. He can see all this going on. The medical staff are beginning to get very concerned. She may be losing a lot of blood. She may be suddenly whisked off to have a cesarean. The father has absolutely no idea what's going on. There's no information coming back to him. He may be witnessing what he may feel is potential loss of life to his wife and his and the baby. So it can be really, really scary.
This is exactly what happened to Duncan. We visited him and he told us the events of the birth.
The birth didn't quite go as we might have hoped. Because we were having twins, there was always the chance of added complications. But it all happened really, really quickly. And we found ourselves being rushed into the operating theatre. So one of the babies, Violet here, was delivered normally, but Ivy decided to put her hand up and got stuck. She was starting to get distressed, so the surgeons took the decision that they needed to operate and perform an emergency caesarean section to get Ivy out. They decided they had to do it under general anaesthetic, and that was the point that I was taken out of the operating theatre. I was literally just swept away. I didn't have time to say anything to my wife or even kiss my wife goodbye. She didn't even realise where I'd gone. I didn't see Ivy for about another 3 hours afterwards. So there was this real feeling of worry of what was going on. What was she going to be like? Was everything all right? And when she was brought round, you could see that she was okay. That was great. But then I was just worrying that I had 2 hungry babies that were going to need feeding, and I had no idea when my wife was going to be coming back and what literally we were going to be doing with these 2 babies to try and keep them fed and keep them happy. And that was quite a worrying time.
Mark used his past experience of trauma to create Fathers Reaching Out, an organisation which raises awareness of mental health in parents.
The aim really is to, instead of Fathers Reaching Out, now Fathers Reaching Out was only to support fathers with their partners with post-natal depression, but what I was finding actually talking to fathers, I've spoken to over 2,000 fathers, not just in the UK but overseas, social media, etc., that fathers were suffering from what we now know as PTSD, birth trauma, but also post-natal depression, anxiety, and they've got a history of depression like mums as well. So we open to screen all parents.
Mark now travels the UK in aid of Fathers Reaching Out and regularly hosts talks and workshops. We attended his conference at the Royal College of Psychiatrists.
This is another study, 2004. So we're looking after partner with post-natal depression. Up to 50% of new dads with depressed partners will actually can have depression themselves. Up to 50%. You've got to think of why is our father drinking more or taking drugs more or feeling angry more, or in extreme cases, violence, where there wasn't violence before the pregnancy. I think it's violence is higher during pregnancy than any other time.
Remember that fathers are just as emotionally affected by birth as women. Mental health should never be ignored.